don't know. I'm getting.
Community Heart Media. Your voice, your heart, your opportunity. Welcome to tonight's show.
Hey, it's Community Heart Radio here, and it's another week, and we've got a great show on tonight. Really looking forward to the show. Cheryne has written a book, so we're going to hear from her. Julio's here as usual. You're looking good today, Julio. I like your shirt, mate.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Yes, I'm trying to dress up for today for Cheryne, so see if it works or not. So go from there.
I'm glad you dressed up, mate. You need to lift your game a bit. So it looks like the show's working for you.
Yeah, true it is.
Cheryne, welcome to 98.9 Northwest FM Community Heart Radio. It's really good to have you here tonight. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you. It's nice to be back on with you guys. This lovely Melbourne night. It's great to be here. I am program manager at Stride Education. We run school programs. I'm a coach. As you said, I'm an author, and looking forward to this discussion.
Well, to be honest, Cheryne, you're a bit of a regular here on 98.9 Northwest. You're a bit of a legend on the radio, and but you work for an amazing organisation called Stride Education. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, Stride Education, we run school programs, workshops for students and teachers all around Australia, mainly focusing on social emotional learning, which is around social skills, building relationships, gaining more self-awareness, self-management, emotional management, behavioral management, gaining resilience, well-being.
Wow. Is that something that Julio can join?
Cool. Mark's gone a bit, is frozen on us, so I'm not sure what's going on with his internet, but he's probably asking, is something that I could join?
Something I thought that you were going to say. You can definitely come and play with us at Stride.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, that sounds a good idea.
So I don't know how much you heard of that, but I think I went off air there for a second, Julio, just when I was trying to get you involved in Cheryne's programs.
That's right, yeah, you do.
That would teach me, won't it?
That would be, yeah. Maybe I
think we've got Kelly joining us tonight somewhere. She's out there, but we're underway. And look, if you're listening tonight, we'd love to hear from you. Again, comments and questions. Cheryne's a life coach, and I've often thought about making you my life coach. Cheryne, what do you reckon about that prospect?
I thought I was already.
Oh, yes. Well, I haven't paid you too much money, so I do appreciate all the free lessons I get. But I wonder who needs it more, Julio or I. But I might leave that up to our listeners to decide who needs a life coach more than Julio or I. I won't get your opinion either, Cheryne, about that. But we've got a big night tonight, haven't we? And what are we talking about tonight?
I believe we're talking about practical tools to inner peace.
Wow.
Yeah, inner peace, Julio. You heard about that, mate?
So explain to us what you mean by inner peace. Like what's your explanation for inner peace, just for the listeners to understand what the topic will be about.
I better just explain just in case anybody that's actually watching and not just listening, that I'm having something wrong with my lighting on my camera on my computer, so it's put me in the dark. So in case anybody's wondering why I'm sitting in the dark, there's some tech issue that we can't figure out. So just to explain that.
Well, it wouldn't be Community Heart Radio without technical issues. Kelly's struggling to get into the studio. She probably has lost her key, but it's always got a few little technical challenges. But we can see you there. It's probably with inner peace, just being a bit darker probably suits the topic.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of like the light amongst the darkness. Is that what we're talking about? Inner peace. I think that what I'm really referring to is it's beyond a feeling of calm. It's a feeling of acceptance. It's a feeling of ease. It's a feeling of safety. It's a feeling of being okay where you're at in trust and peace.
Okay. Do you understand any of that, Julio?
I'm sort of getting the gist of it, yes. So it's more about how to set yourself up for a calm day. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, look, and I guess, it's probably more understanding what is not peace to understand what is inner peace. because we think about what causes us stress and distress and dis-ease in our world, and causing a sense of suffering and anxiety. Peace is the opposite of that. I love the word acceptance. That for me, when I think of peace, I think of that, of accepting where we are, being at ease with our lives, being in a space of acceptance.
Right.
As opposed to resistance, as opposed to pushing, as opposed to proving.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because we don't want to fall asleep, but that's pretty peaceful. We want to actually be goal orientated, don't we? We want to achieve things in life.
In peace, of course. What I'm saying is that, I guess it's more around the distress that's in our mind. You think about the self-talk and the fear that we have within ourselves. And sometimes we don't even understand it. We don't understand what's driving us and what's causing this stress and anxiety and this pressure inside of us. And sometimes you have to wonder, has that become conditioned? I remember somebody once saying to me that they thought that was a key factor of knowing that you were a success, is that you were kind of stressed and highly strung and under all this pressure, that's what successful people look like. And I suppose what we're talking about is that you can have high aspirations, you could be a high achiever, you can have big goals and plans and have a busy life and still experience inner peace within yourself, knowing that you are happy with who you are, you're happy with where your life is, you're in a state of gratitude rather than lack and expectations of people. And I think peace is also a connection to something bigger than ourselves that we know we're part of. So it's about having a sense of faith within ourselves as well, a sense of trust, a sense of belief. And that all brings us into a state of calm rather than a state of madness or a state of chaos or a state of anxiety.
Can you just tell us a bit about yourself? Tell us about a time where you didn't have that, and are you peaceful now, or
I'd like to say I'm on my way. And I do want to say that over the last 2 years, I have been studying A Course of Miracles. And, where in that study, the goal for human beings is to reach a state of peace. And, I think that for me, that's a big thing. And understanding the ego and the ego drives and, some of the ridiculous stuff that goes through our head and the anger that we experience sometimes, and taking things personally and, getting upset with people, and, rather than from a place of peace, we have a greater sense of wisdom. We have a greater sense of seeing. We have a greater sense of understanding. Then we have a greater sense of empathy and compassion for ourselves and for others. So to answer your question, I think that if I look at myself in my younger days, there was, always a part of me that kind of never felt good enough. I was never pretty enough. I was never smart enough. I kind of had this a lot of self-doubt within myself. I guess I look back now in my younger years, I feel like I was a people pleaser. I just wanted to make people happy. And, that kind of was driving a lot of my choices, putting everybody in front of myself to the point where I felt like I was a martyr. And so I didn't have inner peace. I was always in a state of distress. I was always in a state of, just feeling unhappy.
Look, some of those points you're making, Cheryne, are really important. We're just going to let Kelly into the studio. She's found her key, which is great. She's got her key.
Hello, Kelly.
She's come in. G'day, Kel. How you going there? Hope you're not stressed. We're talking about peace, but You might be a little bit stressed, are you?
No, I'm all good. I'm good.
You're good. Oh, we hope you're a little bit stressed because we're trying to find, how we can get you into that peace. But Cheryne's talking about she had a time in her life that she was really worried and anxious and maybe worried about what other people are thinking and the negative self-talk, that sort of stuff, Cheryne, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, you think of all the things we worry about. We have, the biggest worry, financial stress, right? Where's the next dollar coming? All that scarcity mindset, all that fear. We don't realize that we are conditioned to see the world through a lens of fear.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about what we're all a bit anxious about at the moment. I mean, that would be because I'm very anxious tonight. I'm very anxious. Got a lot on my mind, and but people listening could actually help relieve my stress. Now, listening to Cheryne will help me find peace. But there's another road to peace for me, and that's if people want to buy tickets for the Big Brothers Big Sisters dinner going on next Thursday night at the RACV Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters dinner. We'll put that on the website of or the Facebook page of Big Brother of Community Heart later for the Big Brothers Big Sisters dinner. RACV Club. Sammy J's going to be there, Kelly.
I know. It's looking good. Looking good. It should be good.
Julio says he's coming, didn't you, Julio?
Yep, I'll be coming.
All right, I think Cheryne's going to come.
I will definitely be there.
Well, there you go. So we're all going to be there, aren't we? That's fantastic. So that will relieve my stress a bit. Kelly, what's on top for you? What's stressing you at the moment?
What's stressing me at the moment? My physical health. I have just received news today at lunchtime. I will be going in for an operation next Wednesday. It has been just before COVID, so it has been 2.5 years in the waiting.
Wow.
Okay, well, I don't think Kelly's coming to our dinner then.
Well, I want to be because it's a small, so if I can get transport there, I will be fine.
Okay, so I'm worried about tickets. Kelly's got her physical health. She's having a little operation next week. What about you, Julio?
My stresses is basically taking way too much on work-wise and trying to find some me time at the moment. So I'm finding that a little bit overwhelming, but doable. I think it's doable.
Okay, Cheryne, you've got 3 stressed people here, 3 different issues. What's your advice?
Well, I think that what's really interesting is when we look at what disturbs our peace, and let me just clarify. I'm not talking about just being in a space of calm, right? Like that's different. Like when you're in a space of calm and you're relaxed and you're kind of floating in water or you're meditating or something, that's a different kind of state that we're talking about, right? This is a mindset and a deeper feeling within yourself because, I think, Mark, one of the things that we spoke about coming onto the show was you saw some of the videos that I've been doing on social media lately of a video series called Dispelling the Illusion. And so, I've been unpacking this concept of life outside of us being an illusion. And so when you start to really understand that, it's really quite powerful because when you understand every thought that we have actually comes from the past. Every thought that we have, every worry that we have comes from a past memory. It's not us immersed in the moment. It is a memory of something or a projection of something. It's not anything substantially real. And Kelly, I'm sorry that you have to have surgery, and I believe you will, really hoping that.
But it's funny that you should say that, isn't it, Cheryne? Because I literally had the conversation today with the surgeon, and they said to me, "Oh, what's your normal reaction to anaesthetic?" And I said, "Well, I don't remember." And they said, "What do you mean you don't remember?" And I said, "Well, I haven't really had a minor, like I've had big surgery where totally different, which don't remember." And they said, "Oh, so you've got nothing to compare by." I sometimes thought, well, isn't that better? Where I don't know what to expect. So you go, like you said, that's creating all those memories in the past. But I'm actually going, well, I've got nothing to base it off when, something else, very different.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Or and it's sometimes it's not even direct experience. It may have been something that we have heard, right? Or and so when we are worrying about something, the mind is creating a story, right? The mind is creating imagery, right? So like Mark, with like you're stressing of, not having people come to the dinner and the financial stress and all that, it's a projection of what may happen. It's called anticipatory thinking, right? So if you actually think about that, it's an illusion because you're worrying about something that is not in the here and now. It does not exist in this moment. It is an idea that your mind is making that is causing distress and dis-ease and inflammation and all of that in the body. But if we think about it and we put things into perspective, right? There's another way of seeing the situation. There's a deeper way of seeing a situation there. And that's where I'm saying this is more about acceptance, belief, trust, faith, understanding, and connection to something bigger than ourselves than the five senses can experience.
What about the word action? Where does that come into that list of yours?
Well, I think those that know me and me would say I am probably hyperactive, right? So action, there's always action in this, right? There's always action, but there's clear action. So like, for example, you can be doing what you're doing. So it doesn't mean you're going to sit back and go, oh, well, I'm just going to trust in the universe that people are going to come. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you will have clear thought and probably even more creative thinking without the worry. You'll have real creative ideas to be able to go, okay, let's problem solve this and let's move through action with a clear mind and heightened creativity, because we don't have all the turbulence in our mind. So we can actually activate more executive thinking in the brain. Because what I'm talking about here, like, I guess you can see it as the science, is that when we go into fear, we trigger the amygdala. The amygdala get activated, the lower part, the primal center of the brain. It puts us into our fight or flight. And it creates adrenaline and it creates cortisol, and cortisol makes us see the world as if a bear is chasing us, right? We're in this heightened state of arousal. That heightened state of arousal is the complete opposite state of peace that I'm talking about. We're in this, like, it's actually, we're in a biochemistry experience of life in this heightened state.
Is it when we can use those tools, as Mark is talking about, his stress with next week, or Julio's talking about his overload at work, where I remember using it, and I'd love to be able to use it with Julio and Mark. Love it, because I'm a very, like to mind map it out, so given the scenario, for example, and to lay out all the different scenarios and to go, here's the problem, what's the solution? Here's the problem, what's the solution? Mark often comments to me, you're working that out. But I remember learning that in psychology when you're working with clients. Say, for example, if I was working with someone with, let's say, eating disorders, and looking at, some common patterns that have come up, or what's a common problem. It may have been temptation with chocolate, let's say. What's the solution? Or what's 3 possible solutions, and mapping that out. Or like I was just saying to a friend who works in the education setting, obviously, the problem at the moment, and saying, okay, so what are some different options that to start to be having a look at?
Well, exactly.
Does that help with that for you, Cheryne, or is that something that...
And then what you're talking about is being solutions focused, right? As opposed to problem focus. And problem focus is more connected to the drama of a situation. And sometimes we don't realize we just really enjoy the drama more than anything, as opposed to just finding solutions. So in actual fact, if you're just sitting in that space of going, okay, let's find a solution, that is resilience, that is adaptability to your adversity or challenge in that moment. And in actual fact, that is coming from a place of peace. That's not obsessing or ruminating or worrying compulsively on something that's not really happening, but going, okay, let's actually practically navigate what are our best steps forward. So there is very clear action in what I'm talking about. Very clear.
Okay, well, we want people to come and join in the conversation, gang. We've got a lot going on here in this conversation. If you've got anything that's stressing you, share that with us, or you've got any insights that you want to add, because Julio needs all the advice he can get tonight. He's already identified he's stressed out. So anything you got, any advice you got for us on the show, any problem you want to share, tonight's your night, really. It's all for you. We've got, Kelly, we've got our old mate Paul making a little comment here. What do you think about this comment?
We suffer more often in imagination than reality. Really, really good point, Paul.
So good.
I think that's what Cheryne's touching on, is that often we sort of, we preempting the future rather than the current situation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that Paul's added in there that he's going to come to the Big Brothers Big Sisters dinner on Thursday night. That's fantastic, Paul. Welcome aboard, mate. You can buy your tickets. We'll put a link down there. And you've just, that's true. It's not my imagination anymore. The reality is you're solving my problems. And that's what I'm talking about, Cheryne. We need some reality here. And there are some practical realities here, eh?
And look, I think the practical tools is coming back to calm. When we were talking about calm, the tools to understanding how to calm your mind and your nervous system leads to a greater sense of inner peace. And so, those tools to calm. So like, for example, Julio, you spoke about being overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed when we're thinking about the entirety of what we're talking about, or what we're thinking and what we have to do, right? And all of that is playing, as opposed to whether you're mind mapping or writing it out or looking at, a clear timeline or delegating, or are you over committing to people? Do you have is it part of that people pleasing, like not being able to say no and put boundaries? Like, again, what are some clear solutions in that scenario that you could break it down into compartments? So in actual fact, the step before that is to be able to get calm, right? And soothe the mind and soothe the nervous system. And so I suppose, like what I was talking about before, is when we understand the thought processes and we can start to catch our thinking and reframe our thinking, or be very selective in how we are thinking, that's going to lead us to have a very different experience, as well as
it takes the ability to be able to step back. So for someone like, Mark or Julio, who are talking about different work aspects, to take that step back and reassess, but then also sometimes to have someone else objectively looking in.
100%. Yeah.
They can look at things quite objectively and say, right, Mark, I've got your project manager. Here you go. Or Julio.
Was that you volunteering, Kelly, to be my project manager? Is that what I heard? I got 25 tickets to sell in 24 hours. So
yes,
you can project manage that for me. That'd be good.
I think I can help you with that. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, Paul's already helping out. Julio, you help me out as well, mate. Can you relieve some of my stress and help me to find that inner peace?
I'm trying, as you know. I'm just getting one person to convict to buying a ticket with me, but it's a bit hard at the moment. So I got 2 out of 3 guys coming, but there we go.
Now, to be honest, Cheryne, sometimes you can react sometimes, can't you? And I think what you're talking about is a bit of self-control, being mindful. Maybe it's mindful. Is that the sort of word we're talking about?
Mindfulness is part of the tools. Mindfulness is part of the toolkit. But I think it starts with having a sense of awareness and self-connection. And I think that the very, very first step before you have self-awareness is actually a desire to want to change. So, and a desire that, okay, things need to change. And so for some of us, unfortunately, that comes with a diagnosis of some sort, or a relationship breakup, or a job loss, or some drama that shakes us up and awakens us to say, okay, well, maybe I need to do things differently. And so
let's do a little bit of a check here. Check in. Kelly, do you want to change?
Oh, always ready. Always need to improve. 100%.
Are you ready to change? Are you open to change?
Very much so.
Yeah. What about you, Julio? You going to change?
Depends on the change. I'm going to say that. Depends on the change.
Well, that's Cheryne, isn't
Not
that
having a growth
conditional?
mindset.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
was
think
going to say
Julio's
it
being a
wasn't to
bit,
grow and learn.
you know, he's really just picking his race. He just wants to get on the best horse. I mean, come on, Julio, you got to commit, mate. You got to change.
I would love to commit. Just that well, the way I view it is this: I'm finding it a little bit hard to in work-wise or what's going on in my life is basically that after COVID, a lot of people have elected a different type of lifestyle that really
Hang on,
doesn't
Julio. I think you're
suit.
just telling us sad stories, mate. Are you in charge of your life or not?
No, he's opening up and sharing.
No, basically,
Oh.
it depends on the thing. So basically, it's just not a change. It's more, I'm trying to adapt to a new way of thinking that looks like it won't hang around for very long, but just a new way of everybody's new concept of thinking. So yeah.
Well, what do you think about that, Cheryne?
Well, again, I mean, it's really kind of digging into that to kind of go everyone's way of thinking. What is this really about? Because that's kind of a sweeping globalization. So, you know, I'd kind of, from a coaching perspective, I want to dig in and go, really.
Yeah, no, go for your life, Cheryne. We're just here, just the four of us. What would be the next question you'd ask Julio to sort of clarify what he's saying? What question would you ask him?
Well, I'd say when you're talking about everybody, who's everybody? What really is this about for you?
Oh no, it's basically about dealing with the new way of work method that's happening after COVID. So pretty much 30% of the workforce has disappeared from the city, and that's a known fact. That means that pretty much you got less tradies, less people that actually want to do work in the city. So in my world, that puts a very big drop in the amount of work that you can actually accomplish each day, which stresses other people because they want things done. And it just does this big circle. But I know that it's going to change, but might change in a way that everybody has to restart again, reevaluate what they're doing. So that's where my stresses are coming from, is just readapting to something that looks like might change again. And then just,
We'd
I'm
probably agree with Paul, wouldn't you, Julio, that change is always constant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why, Cheryne, we've got to be in control of ourselves, because you'd agree with what Paul says, Cheryne?
100%. I mean, that's really the only certainty in life is uncertainty. And I suppose it's also looking at where the resistance is coming from and where you are resisting change and what you are holding on to, because that's kind of what I was referring to again, is that this moment in time for all of us is actually a really amazing moment in time where it's leading to greater innovation and greater creativity and greater adaptability. I mean, that is resilience in a nutshell. Resilience is how are we going to adapt to change. That I don't really see resilience as bouncing back from I see it as how are we adapting to adversity or change around us. And, you know, one of the greatest examples that I always think about is, you know, one of my favorite books that I ever read when I was studying psychology was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And, you know, he wrote that book in Auschwitz in a concentration camp. And, you know, his existentialism, and the theory that he created in the concentration camp and writing this book is our search for, you know, it's about the meaning that we are making about a situation. It's not necessarily about the situation that's causing stress. It is the story, it is the meaning. And if we can find more meaning, purposeful meaning, if we can find a purpose in something, if we can find a reason for being, then that drives us in a very different way. And it leads to greater innovation, right?
I was just going to say that, Cheryne. I remember learning about that for people who have been in earthquakes, for example. They said innovation, resilience, and your ways of the lessons learned. So rather than having that victim mindset or saying, I'm uncertain about X, Y, or Z, what is my lesson here and how am I going to use it in the future?
Well,
and
I think,
they, related that to, so people like, when you're using those war situations, and they said that that's been a great tool to be able to be thinking about always.
Well, and you know, again, it's about, like Mark was saying, are you taking charge of your life? You know, it's you know, it's not necessarily that we want to be unempathetic and you know, not support each other through change. That's a different conversation. However, it is you know, what we're talking about here is about taking 100% responsibility for our reality. If I am experiencing this situation, how am I seeing it? How am I perceiving it? Is this the best way that I can see it? Is there other ways that I can see it? What else can I do? And that is the malleability in situations where we're adapting all the time to, well, what else can I do here? What else can I do here? What else can I do here? As opposed to focusing on the problems, right? When we focus on the problems exist or persist. And when we focus on the solutions exist, right? So, you know, I think it is about shifting that mindset. And that's, you know,
what would you say in terms of, we had a guest on last week, and like, you know, a lot of things coming up in the news lately about finances, you know, they were saying about superannuation changes this week. If we use that as something that is common, which is affecting everyone at the moment, what's some solutions that you could provide people in terms of that piece, you know, to how to have that inner peace in that financial aspect? Big question, but
big question. I was like, yesterday I heard the news. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have $3 million in my super.
Well, yeah, you know what? Interesting thing is, Cheryne, Julio is part of the 80,000. He's in the 80,000 club that the Prime Minister's talking about. So I was quite surprised. I hadn't met anyone in the 80,000 club, and here he is, Julio. What's it like to be in that club, Julio?
Well, maybe that's why I'm stressing so much.
But again, it's like it's catching what you're stressing about, right? And you know, this is the, you know, we're talking about something again that, well, you know, the solution is that, you know, what we're all experiencing in this high cost of living. Okay, what are we gonna practically spend our money on? You know, again, how are we going to adapt to this change? You know, my son's cheese is now $8.50 for a small bag of cheese. I'm like, I'm not quite sure when cheese became little golden sprinkles that you put on top of something, but you know, so we're going to adapt and we're going to use less cheese for right now, right? Or whatever it is. But I'm not going to sit in my space, because taking responsibility for my life right now, I'm not going to waste my time with worry that something that's going to happen to me in 20 years. I'm still going to make the best of the now and experience life in this moment, where I am choosing joy and I'm choosing to let go of unnecessary worry and to really grasp what is really in my control, rather than trying to control a situation that is out of my control.
Well, it's great having Cheryne Blom, the author of The Courage to Be You, on Community Heart Radio today and Northwest FM. Now, we're going to be moving into the top 5 soon, and so we'd love you to join us again for the top 5, but we're keen for you to join the conversation as well. Cheryne's a top life coach. She's admitted she's my life coach today. You can see how good I'm going. So, look, make sure you come on and ask her any question. Cheryne, look, you're talking to thousands of young people in schools. What's happening for young people at the moment? What's their biggest issues?
Oh, look, I think that, again, we've had so much disruption and so much change. We're seeing such a disruption in social engagement and social skills. Like students have forgotten what it's like to sit in a class. Concentration levels, connection, and to be honest, what I see every day, like I just put it down to a real influence of social media that's really, really changed this generation.
In what way, Cheryne?
Really
it's
impacting them. Well, I think that they, you know, it's kind of like when we were kids, you know, there was the idea that what you saw on television, your mind took as truth, right? So we're seeing some disturbing content, online content, that young people take as truth, and it's kind of conditioning them to think a certain way, to see the world a certain way. It's like they are literally living the world through this filter. And the pressure that they have to live up to that, the pressure to look a certain way, the pressure to be a certain way, the pressure to be included, the pressure to, for such complexity of issues that are around them. I think that a lot of behavioral issues that we're seeing is a result of all this kind of pressure and kind of confusion that they are experiencing right now.
Cheryne, do you think as well that we've become, and I keep using the word pre and post-COVID, we've got pros and cons. We've got all this, amazing technology now, like we can use here, and methods of communication. But what we found, we were talking about it at work the other day, is we've lost that simplicity of communication. Talking from A to B, we were talking about how are ways that we're going to be engaging with the community about X, Y, and Z. And I said to them, what about if we actually physically go out there and we're talking with 3 different schools in a kindergarten, for example, on how this is going to access them? They said, actually, that's really great. And with different cultures. So it's that coming back to that simplicity rather than overcomplicating it. Do you think sometimes we've lost that way of connecting and engaging and communicating?
Oh, 100%. And all that kind of emotional intelligence and, what we refer to as soft skills, just as something as simple as eye contact and how to have a conversation. I think it's easy to hide behind a screen now.
Yeah.
It's easy to be a kind of keyboard warrior than what to say. And I think that's what's happening is those very basic communication skills are weakening. Right? Because they're not being used. So I
someone
find it
said to me the other day, and Mark will laugh at this because he's very conscious of doing it, I know, I'll flick them an email. And now that's not personalizing and it's not intentional. So we get flicked so many emails, so much junk and spam, is that you're not hitting the mark, you're not personalizing that message. And so people aren't going to pick up that email or read that context behind it. Yeah.
But I'm even finding now you text people, they don't even reply to your text. Like it's, I think there's the old thing when you used to ring someone, they used to ring you back. And, these days that doesn't happen. Now I might be trying to get them to come to my dinner, but, you expect them to say yes or no or something. But I think that the way people socialize and connect with each other is not great practice. I don't know whether you find that, Cheryne.
Well, I mean, it's exactly that, of just having basic conversations is like it's all just disappearing. And I think that's where like a lot of my conversation around courage is. I think that one of the biggest things that we see in this world that we're living in, first of all, we're all rushing, right? And life is happening so fast. So communication is so rushed. Right. So a lot of the time we say things and we're saying things on the fly or we're saying things in a text very quickly. Right. And you don't have tonality there. We're not really thinking about it. And, I always say, like in our programs, if I had to put one word of what our programs are about is actually teaching empathy. Like that's one superhero. If I could give everybody in the world a superpower, it would be empathy, because empathy would kind of allow us to get over ourselves and stop being so self-centered, because I really think that is at the heart of what breaks our peace and disturbs our peace, is that we are completely all self-focused, too much self-focused. And that really, really is, and if you think about it, it's like all this worry, it's because it's very much about the me, right? Which is the ego's survival. That is what the ego is all out for, your own self-survival. And we're not thinking beyond that, like how, this conversation is really about how do we break out of this survival mode? Like, why is that even become a thing? How did that become a thing? Like, why is that our reality, that normality is worrying and how am I going to survive? And why is this our usual way of thinking? That's the conversation that I'd love to raise, is why are we choosing that reality? We don't, and that, that's my choice when I was saying before of the desire to say, I want to change, is recognizing that you have a choice in how you see a situation in every moment. You can stay in your fixed ways, or you can have that growth mindset and say, how can I see this differently? And for me, my journey, my growth over the last few years is me saying to myself, I am determined to break these ego habits. I am determined to live on the flip side of a fear reality. I am determined to maintain my inner peace. And so what does that mean? That means I'm going to choose forgiveness. I'm going to choose to see another person's perspective and have that perspective taking rather than prove myself right. Because why? Because I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing to let that go because my peace is more important than that story. I'm choosing to let go of, am I going to be okay at 70? Because it's disturbing my peace right now. I'm letting go of the worry of, are we going to be able to buy cheese next week? Because it's disturbing my peace right now.
Fantastic. Julio, you're looking very peaceful there, mate. How are you feeling?
Oh, good. I'm just listening to conversation. And it's actually an interesting conversation to have, especially now in today's world where it's a real big struggle between anxiety and having some sort of relaxation period of time. I've got to give it to Cheryne that there is a problem with the internet, and I don't see how we're going to win that war against the internet, though, with kids, especially with kids, and the way that actually it's overruling their lives. So,
you know, and you know, one of the people that I like to follow is Sadhguru, and he languages this so perfectly when he says, you know, this is about us becoming conscious of our compulsions. Anxiety, fear is compulsive thinking, right? When we become aware that we are in fear, when we become aware that there's another way of seeing the situation, when we become aware that I can let this go, see things from a different angle, we can break free from a lot of these shackles and this prison that is in our mind. The chaos is in our mind. It's all an illusion.
Mark,
Well, these are fantastic things.
Overcome that fear for next week.
Yeah. We're going to move into Cheryne's
Right.
top 5 tips for life. And I think she's given us a bit of an insight into some of them, which has been fantastic, Cheryne. It's just so great to have you. Haven't read Cheryne's book, The Courage to Be You? I'd encourage you to get onto her website and buy a book. It's a good read, and get into it. I'm sure Paul's going to read it. He might even bring a copy. Actually, there might be a copy at the dinner, Cheryne, that we might be able to auction off or raffle off or something. Yeah.
Yes, and in fact, you know, we can talk about it. I'm also running a retreat on the 19th of March for those that are in Victoria. We're running it it's a 1-day self-care retreat on Sunday, the 19th of March. And I'm hoping to be able to do two more retreats, one in May and one in October, that really are going to help. Really, the idea is to give people a space to step away from the busyness of their life, to step into a calm space in nature, a very nurturing environment where you can sit back and reflect and just step away. Like you were saying, Kelly, so perfectly, we need to step back. We need to step off that treadmill. We need to just take a pause and just remove ourselves. And so, you know, I'm really, really excited to get back into running the retreats, you know, post-COVID, because they really are an immersive way of giving yourself some really powerful self-care and self-development.
So it'd be a great day for Kelly and Julio to go.
I definitely really great. You can do meditation, you can do some Tai Chi, you can do some workshopping, get your vision and your goals and your values on check. So
what do you think, Julio? You excited about going to something like that?
Me, I wouldn't mind some relaxation anytime. Yeah, so it'd be good.
Yeah. Well, you might have Julio there. That's good. And you know, Kelly, what do you think?
Oh, 100%. I think that sort of thing is really, really good. I
You
think
like
it's
those
really
sort of things,
important.
don't you, Kelly?
What
You
about
do
you,
those sort of
Mark?
things.
What about you? I'm thinking
Well, I've got my
I
own
could,
retreat on that weekend. I've got a very big retreat. I think it's going to be the MCG. It's Hawthorn, Essendon, and it's the start of the AFL season. And I'm just going to relax and watch the Bombers beat the Hawks.
are you going to take me along so you can explain to me how the game even works and I can explain to you rugby? Is that the cat?
Well, it could be. It could be the case. There could be the case.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and Julio's put something up there, which is great. Check out the website there. Thanks, Julio. Great stuff. And there's going to be a link there about the dinner. Julio's going to put one of them up as well. And while Julio's doing that, Cheryne, we might go to your top 5. We're really looking forward to these. The 5 top. You just really think you're talking to Kelly, Julio, myself. What would be your top 5 tips for the 3 of us?
Well, I was thinking of the top 5 tips for inner peace, right? And how you can learn how to choose peace. And so I've put it into an acronym. The word is ANGEL.
Angel.
Right? Angel. So you kind of
I
can
think
think
you're more referring to Kelly than Julio there, but
we all have an inner angel within us.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first tip, number 1, like I was saying before, is awareness. So that is about recognizing first what is disturbing your peace. And that is really about having a very honest conversation with yourself. You know, where is fear, self-doubt, self-sabotage? Where is that playing out in your life? And, you know, starting with that awareness. So first,
hey, given we're talking about the Big Brothers Big Sisters dinner tonight, and thank you, Julio, for putting that up there because people want to come to the dinner. You can be self-reflective, but sometimes, you know, you can fool yourself, can't you? I mean, I can think, oh, look, I've got no problems, and then I come in for a walk for you around the oval, and suddenly I've got 5 problems. So where do other people play in that sort of whole self-reflection game to help you be more aware?
well, I think it's also, again, it's, you know, it's we're not necessarily doing this to go into self-pity, right? But to have the awareness of what's causing the chaos and how can I see that differently. So the awareness of what's disturbing my peace and how am I choosing peace? How am I moving towards peace? And having that awareness of, okay, right now I am taking something personally, and what happens if I see the situation from this person's perspective and let go of my own story, which is not my own way of seeing it, right? So there's my awareness of the situation and my awareness of choosing to see something differently.
Okay, so tip number 1 is awareness. Be aware of yourself.
Number 2, the N stands for nowness. Now, this is the gift that just keeps giving, right? It literally is the secret of everything, is learning how to live in the moment and learning how to catch ourselves when we are ruminating in the past and knowing that every thought comes from our past. We're always seeing situations based on what we know, which means it's coming from the past, or we are anticipating or projecting into the future. So nowness is the ability to say, what is in front of me here and now? What can I touch? What can I hold? What can I really be in control of? Not controlling, but in control of.
How do you go with that one, Kel, being in the now? Is that your strong one or something you're working on?
Well, I like to keep a list of things that I can do today. For example, I tick them off, and that's my now. And then let's say it's next Wednesday. There's only so much I control next Wednesday. Good practical example, right? I can't control what the outcome's going to be, but I can control what I prepare today.
I love that.
Right. Yeah, it's good, Kel. So little list. All right. So the first one's awareness. Second one is living in the now, not getting too.
And just living in the now, just one more point on that is that when we really start to play with this and see the power in it, in actual fact, every situation that we are in is neutral. It means nothing until we decide on a meaning. So any situation is neutral. There's innocence in everything. So when we realize that, and we can start to use higher intelligence to start to see a situation, you can also imprint the present moment with how you choose to see it.
But don't forget, things do go bad in your life, and that's not neutral. And things go good in your life, and that's not neutral either. So sometimes you can get excited about things, and
but even in that, but even in that situation, even in that difficulty, it's still neutral, right? It's still a situation where you can say, okay, what's the solution here? How am I going to move forward? And that meaning defines your situation, or
All
you
right.
can focus on the drama of it, or the problems of it.
All right.
Yeah?
Okay. So we're being
None
more
of
aware
this,
of
by the
ourselves.
way, none of this is easy, because if it was easy, we would all do this. The brain is lazy. The nervous system just wants to protect us. So we default into negativity bias, and we default into stress out of habit, right? Doesn't mean that it's the right way. It just means that's the way we default to. But self-development and growth is actually about growing out of these patterns that no longer suit us or are keeping us stagnant.
Okay, 98.9 Northwest FM. We're on the run home. We're looking at inner peace. Our first one is being self-aware, more self-aware, and the second one is living in the now. What's the third one?
The third one, I think people may be challenged by this, but my third one is about giving. It's about being of service. It's about choosing to be a light to people and make a difference to people, rather than being self-focused and what am I going to get out of this? In particular, in relationships, a lot of us go into relationships going, are they going to love me? Are they going to do this for me? Or am I, what am I going to get out of this? When we choose to be love, and when we choose to give ourselves generously, that shapes our relationships, and again, shapes our experience.
Kelly, there are people out there that are very generous in their spirit. I'm not saying they shout your lunch all the time, but their just whole spirit about them is generous. Don't you find? Kel, do you find that if you know those people that just got that generous spirit about them?
100%. I was talking with a friend the other night on the weekend, actually, and and he was just talking about being a good friend and how he'd been a good friend to another person. And I said to him, I always like to think of the method: a yes is a yes and a no is a no, not a maybe, because a maybe is always looking for the better option. So yes might be, yes, I want to go, oh, yep, yes, but can I get back to you at this amount of time? So even if it's with the time thing, or to be, when we're talking about generosity, a maybe is not placing yourself in that generous space. And he could really understand that, to go, yeah, I don't like it how they're having a maybe, because it means they're always keeping their options open. And so then it made him feel like they weren't being valued, or their worth was being questioned. And I said, 100%. A yes is a yes, a no is a no. Simple as that.
Okay, so we've got to be aware, we've got to live in the now, and we've got to be giving, which is fantastic. Love that. Giving in relationships.
That's also about being authentic, right? When we're giving, that's actually our true nature, right? It's actually our true nature to share and to give openly. The last one, the second to last one, and coming back to my acronym of angels, one of the reasons why angels fly is because they take themselves so lightly, right? So the E stands for enjoying life, seeing the joy in situations rather than the hardships, rather than all the stressings, finding the joy, having a sense of humor. For me, I feel like if it's one character strength that's gotten me through the adversity of my life, is my sense of humor and my sense of playfulness. And it's not to say, I don't mean that I've not taken situations seriously, but it's also, you can take life seriously and have fun. right? And I think when we have fun, we feel lighter, we feel happier, right? And again, it's that choice of I'm choosing to have fun, right? I'm choosing to find joy. And when we really look for joy and choose joy, it's right there in front of us.
Yeah, I'm loving the angel, Cheryne. It's a great
Angel?
little description. So we've gone from awareness to now to giving and now to enjoying. So that's great, enjoying life.
Enjoying.
And I think celebration's a big part of that, don't you think, Kel?
Absolutely, 100%.
You know, I always think about Stephen Covey, you know, when he spoke about the 7 habits of highly effective people, you know, start with the end in mind, how he says, imagine we all had to live our life as if we were 90 looking back, right? Like I teach my kids, I always say, let's have rocking chair moments, right? Rocking chair moments are those moments in life where you're going to be in your rocking chair at 90, looking back and going, I lived a good life. You're not going to be sitting in your rocking chair, Mark, wondering if you sold those 25 tickets. Right?
Or whether I went to the Big Brothers Big Sisters dinner on next Thursday night at the RACV Club at 6:30. I mean, you'll never forgive yourself if you don't come to that dinner. I mean, it's going to be an amazing night of celebration, enjoying, Cheryne.
And you know, the last one, the L stands for lead your life with an open heart. And I think that a lot of us protect our heart and we guard ourselves. We don't speak our truth. We don't speak openly. We don't live openly. And living with an open heart means that you live open to experience life. You live for the adventure of life. You live for the joy of life. And you live with a sense of courage rather than protection. And so I think that openness and that open heart allows you to see life and experience life in a completely different lens.
Well, Cheryne, this could be another book coming up for you, I reckon. The Angel book, that could be the next one after The Courage to Be You. Now,
well, the second book's on its way. It's called The Courage to Be Love, which is really what we're talking about.
I love
to Be
that.
Love. Wow. All right, we're coming up to the end of the show. We've got another couple of minutes. And Julio, can you run us through Cheryne's top 5?
Yes, we've got awareness. How is my peace being disturbed? Number 2 is nowness, living in the now. Number 3 is giving, be of service. Number 4 is enjoy life, finding your life, enjoying your life. And number 5, I didn't get to that one, sorry, was
it's living.
Lead with an open heart.
Living with that. I think that being that transparency, being open, being vulnerable, all that sort of stuff, Kelly, I like that one.
Yeah, I think that's like being able to have a voice, being able to have your voice, to be vulnerable, to be integral, to be integral, and to be intentional.
Yeah, I think you're pretty open, Kelly. I must admit, you're pretty open about what's going on.
Not always, no.
No. One thing to work on. All right, we're going to wrap it up now. It's been a great show. Thanks, Cheryne, for coming on. Cheryne Blom, the author of The Courage to Be You on 98.9 Northwest FM, Community Heart Radio. And Kelly, what would be your last little point to sum up today's show?
I think I really like what Cheryne was saying to start with, having that awareness, because it's like anything. If you've got that awareness or your willingness to change, that's the first step. Because then you can really reflect on what needs to change and having that solution in mind. So I love that. Thank you so much, Cheryne.
Fantastic. Julio, what's been your takeout?
Mine was pretty much the last statement you made, is lead yourself with your life. So lead with an open heart. I reckon that's really one you should concentrate. That puts you more out there, I think. So it actually pushes you to get out of your shell and be a bit more forward about your emotions and what's going on.
Yeah.
Good on you, Julio. And your final comment, Cheryne, before we close the show?
I think everything that we're talking about there is about being in truth, right? And just, it's not, sometimes we get caught up of, oh, am I worthy enough? Am I good enough? It's really, this is just our truth. It's just being real. It's actually just, all of this is unlearning all these protective mechanisms, and let's just be real. Let's just
Fantastic.
be
Well, thanks
as
for
nature
joining us on
wants.
Community Heart Radio 98.9 Northwest FM. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Tune in every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. or watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and follow us on LinkedIn and other social media.